First things first with Democrats. We need to get the stablecoin bill through the Congress. We need to pass the FIT 21, the digital assets market structure bill, so that we can protect consumers and keep those jobs here in the U.S. Those are the first two big things we need to
do. All right, the battle for crypto policy heating up with pro-crypto Democrats begging VP Kamala Harris to not cede the millions of pro-crypto American voters to Trump and Republicans. And joining us on Coinage today, one of the Democrats leading the charge to shift Dems pro-crypto is Congressman Wiley Nickel. Representative Nickel, thank you so much for coming on Coinage today.
It's great to be with you, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think right now you're perhaps one of the most outspoken Democrats leading this issue. You, of course, sent out a letter trying to urge the party. I've been chatting with VP Harris's team to kind of try and lead this charge and got booed, I think, down in Bitcoin Nashville when you were talking about it. We'll get into that in a sec. But first, just kind of why is this so important for you to really push for in 2024?
Well, Zach, there's a fresh new perspective emerging in the Democratic Party. And whether you love crypto or you hate it, it's here to stay. We need to embrace this new technology. We got to protect consumers and keep that innovation here in the United States. So we're working hard to show folks that this is a bipartisan issue. I led the group of Democrats to get us to 71 Democrats in support of the first ever vote for crypto in our nation's history, for the FIT 21, the digital assets market structure bill that I worked on over the course of a year and a half with Patrick McHenry, who's the chair of my committee, the House Financial Services Committee. And we've been making great progress. When people understand the issues about financial inclusion, about bringing down costs, we get a lot more folks involved. So I think the folks who may support what Gary Gensler does as SEC chair just don't get it. They don't understand this issue, and they're just wrong. So we're having that internal debate play out. But the more and more that we educate people on these issues, the more folks we bring to our side.
Yeah, I want to get into that in a second here around kind of building that trust right now. There's a lot of people in crypto who are pretty outspoken saying, look, I don't know if we can trust Kamala Harris, given the fact that SEC Chair Gary Gensler has, waged this war on the industry. She's got to do more to kind of distance herself from the anti-crypto army that Elizabeth Warren's been trying to build and other Democrats have. But you also, down at Bitcoin Nashville, pointed out that, look, I'm not sure if you can trust Trump and Republicans here either, given kind of what he's said in the past. People booed you for pointing it out, but I think it's important to play that clip again just to show exactly kind of the truths that you were laying out there. Take a listen to Representative Nickel here down in Bitcoin Nashville.
In 2019, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I am not a fan of Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies which are not money." He said all the bad talking points. He said they facilitate unlawful behavior, including drugs and illegal activities. And that's right, Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He did nothing on this issue. And right now I can tell you he's totally full of shit.
So it's a bold move to bring that up. Of course, you took the heat for it. But I think, why was it important for you to point that out? And do you think that maybe some people in crypto are being led astray by President Trump?
1,000%. Donald Trump did nothing for 4 years as president. He doesn't understand the issues at all. And I'm glad that he came out with a pro crypto stance. That's something. But he's someone who's just trying to stay out of jail. I think he'll say anything and do anything. And I don't think the commitment is especially real. He's not someone that I trust for much other than his own personal preservation in politics. And I felt it was important to say that because I don't take him at his word on this. But my focus is on getting good policy statements from Vice President Harris. We're encouraging a reset with the industry and on the folks who care about this amazing new technology. So that's been our work, and so far so good. She hasn't met with Biden, really hasn't met with industry at all, but she's running in her own right now. She's taking meetings that we've asked her to take with her staff. It's a very encouraging first step, and I think we're going to see some good policy positions from her that should hopefully signal a good reset for what she would do differently as president than the current
Yeah, I mean, I
administration.
think it was a good first step in terms of looking at what that reset would look like. And, coming out and saying you want one is certainly one first step. There are a lot of people in the industry saying that, you can't trust that until some actions are taken. I doubt that VP Harris would ever come out and say, look, we're going to remove Gary Gensler before she's actually starting her own term. But that does seem to be what some people in crypto want to call for. And I guess since you're in these talks, what do you expect to see maybe as the next quote unquote olive branch? What do you think is realistic in that reset, and what should people be looking for?
It's her own. It's her own position on the issues. A policy statement, puts a lot of the concerns to rest. I think we're going to see that. I've been talking with her senior staff over the last few weeks about this issue, and we need to make sure we've got a good message for the folks who are focused on this space, and I think we're going to see that in the coming days.
What is it exactly? I mean, obviously, I think there are differences here in terms of now that Trump has come out and said that he wants to, if you agree with kind of Senator Lummis's bill, 64 billion in terms of Bitcoin purchases potentially, also not touching any of the Bitcoin that the U.S. already owns. I mean, in your discussions, is there any chance that the Democrats get anywhere close to being that pro crypto?
Yeah, I think it's first things first with Democrats. We need to get a stablecoin bill through the Congress. We need to pass the Fit 21, the digital assets market structure bill, so that we can protect consumers and keep those jobs here in the U.S. Those are the first two big things we need to do. A related thing is fixing the custodial banking piece of SAB 121. Which has gotten a lot of attention. We're going to get that fixed in this Congress so that the best banks in the world can take custody of digital assets. So I think really, as Democrats, we need to do these things where we've had bipartisan support. The bill that we pushed through the House had 71 Democrats, including Speaker Pelosi. We had most of the Democratic leadership, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, Ted Lieu. Those I think are important voices in pushing this issue more towards the center. And just by the way, getting back to Donald Trump, just after he left the White House, he called Bitcoin a scam. He said it was a scam. So his positions are very new to this, and I felt it was important to use his own words against him when I had the chance just a few hours before he got on stage.
Yeah, you mentioned Sob 121, and I think that's an interesting point just because we had SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce on Coinage just a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about kind of, there is a silver lining there if more banks and more custody solutions can be offered, and you're not just relying on basically Coinbase right now. But she said that she, didn't like the way that we got there. Of course, there was the Biden veto around that bipartisan bill, as you said, to rebuke Sob 121. But then kind of a secret backdoor meeting with big banks to win those kind of ways around Sob 121. So I'm curious to, you talk so much about the support from Democrats, but I think some people looking at it might say that support was only there because big banks wanted it, especially maybe, when you think about Chuck Schumer and the representation he has in New York. I'm curious kind of how you see the incumbents on the banking side now working with the quote unquote crypto industry, and where you see maybe some of the Democrats seeing the most strength in becoming pro-crypto.
Well, I think on just this narrow issue you're talking about, whether our nation's largest banks can take custody of crypto assets for things like the Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. Right now, like you said, it's all with Coinbase. That's a concentration of risk problem. That's not good for our financial system. So, I took the very rare step of being a Democrat, co-sponsoring a Congressional Review Act. It's very rare that a member of another party, of the same party as the White House, signs on to that, because I just felt like Gary Gensler was flat out wrong on this. He's way out of his lane. The SEC doesn't do banking. A number of reasons, but a lot of the Democrats in the House support the policy issue here. It's just the politics of voting against the White House when they're the party in power is hard for some folks. But I think you're going to see a fix to that in the House and the Senate. We have a budget process where we're going to put a budget provision in that gets rid of SAB 121. We also have a standalone bill that's got very broad bipartisan support. So when we take the Congressional Review Act, the veto, politics out, there's a very good bipartisan group that will get that done because just about everybody agrees, including big banks, that we should want to have our nation's best banks taking custody of these digital assets. That's what they do. They're good at it, and even Coinbase agrees it's bad for the industry to do this. So that's one of the smaller things. If you're looking at what happens in Congress, that I think I feel very confident we're going to get done before the end of the year.
Well, one of the other things that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and I guess this is a shift in concentration risks now to national security risks, is this idea of stablecoins and kind of how the government has not exactly been as active as some people wish they were when it comes to regulating stablecoins. And it was interesting because just a few months ago, you asked a question in one House hearing to Caroline Hill, who's at Circle, about Tether, the other big stablecoin. And we just wanted to play a little bit of your questioning there because it also came up at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville when we dig into maybe some of how Democrats and Republicans might look differently at this industry. You had asked Caroline Hill about risks to Tether and whether the Treasury can kind of step in now to maybe prevent terrorist financing. Just want to play the clip that, the question that you posed to her. Take a listen.
Given Tether's nexus to the U.S. financial system through Cantor Fitzgerald, does Treasury already have the authority to take action? And what should we be doing about American-regulated companies like Cantor?
I would think that the Treasury Department would have the authority to take action given this U.S. touch point, yes. And I hope that they're looking at this seriously given Tether's reputation as well as the data that we've seen that they're contributing to terrorist financing and other malign activities.
Now, it's interesting just because of how big Tether's gotten. It's more than $113 billion in market cap. They now have more U.S. Treasury holdings than Germany, I believe. It's a huge company. But to call out those national security risks in terms of what Tether is used for, I do think is interesting as they continue to grow. I mean, what's your stance on kind of what the government should be doing in monitoring some of those things and how big maybe potentially a risk to the traditional financial system Tether might be becoming?
Well, again, the focus really is about regulating the industry. That's what we're trying to do. That's a very that's a very progressive position. It's a very pro-Democrat position to regulate the industry. So we we allow the good actors to continue doing their work. And if the bad actors want to have access to, our financial systems in the U.S., they need to change the way they do things and they need to come under compliance. Part of it too, I think kind of related to all this is the strength of the digital dollar. By burying our head in the sand and doing nothing, that's kind of, you're seeing stuff like this happen because we're just not doing anything. So if you're someone like me and you care about the strength of the digital dollar in 20 and 50 years, getting a stablecoin bill through Congress especially important. Because when we do our sanctions, as an example, they're strong. They work because of the strength of the dollar. If the dollar declines as the global reserve currency, we're going to be much worse off as a country.
Well, I do want to give you a shout out here for your understanding of everything, because that's one of the things that I think everything in crypto, everyone in crypto really just wants to see people understand the issues and understand the technology, which you clearly do. Shout out to you, by the way. Our friends at Stand With Crypto have you listed as one of the few Democrats with an A rating, by the way, in terms of supporting crypto and your stances. One of those things that's flagged on here, though, which I think is interesting, just kind of given Republicans and Democrats and where they stand on issues, is this anti-CBDC Act. And you talk about a digital dollar. And I think it's interesting to dig into some of those details because it's kind of a question of, do you want private companies like Tether or USDC to be in charge of this stable coin that represents a dollar on chain? Or do you want the government to kind of have a CBDC? And Howard Lutnick, who's at Cantor Fitzgerald, billionaire CEO, is running them and helping Tether store their treasuries. actually was up on stage, I think, right before you got booed at Nashville, talking about why they are putting so much effort into working with law enforcement agencies, I think more than 100 around the world, to police who's using Tether. And it was interesting to hear his thoughts in kind of, I guess, responding to the question you posed to Caroline Hill. I just want to play what he said and then get your take on who should be in charge when it comes to a quote-unquote digital dollar on the other side. Take a listen.
As you all know, every transaction on the blockchain is traceable, and Tether will seize any amount of coin that is involved in illicit activity. They will be caught. So whoever said things about Tether, they're knowingly false, they know it's wrong, and it needs to go away.
So that's what he says about attacks on Tether. I mean, just first your reaction to, I guess, that.
Well, I think number one, I think just very broadly, blockchain technology is much better for the Secret Service and law enforcement. They have an easier time tracking bad actors. That's something that I think is important here. Just in terms of Congress on CBDCs, I don't think we're there yet. The bill that I support is one that says the only person who should be able to create a CBDC is the U.S. Congress. So I think that's the place we are right now. If we're going to do anything, it needs to go through Congress, and that's the only place that we're debating the issue in a very real way right now in Congress.
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of hear, I guess, Howard Lutnick saying that they work with not just the U.S. government, but a bunch of law agencies around the world. And it brought up a question. I wonder if that's fair to say, is the distinction between Republicans looking at this and Democrats looking at it is maybe the party of big government versus the party of letting the private sector run with things. And I don't know. I mean, it's a fair and open question of whether you think it's better for Tether to be the one policing these things and shutting down and blacklisting wallets as they have. They just blocked, I think, $14 million from North Korea's hacking group. Just can't move it. They freeze the assets versus what might happen in traditional finance. I don't know if you have a position on that and whether it's even fair to say that's where Democrats and Republicans might see this issue.
I mean, you've got a lot of very kind of libertarian leaning Republicans. They see the issue one way. I think we're really not quite there yet in terms of CBDCs. I'm just really focused on getting Democrats to support regulation. That's what everyone agrees we need to do. So that we fill those regulatory gaps between the SEC and the CFTC, so that that folks who operate in the U.S. know that they can do that without being sued all the time. So I think we've got to put we don't want to put the cart before the horse in terms of where the focus is with Democrats in Congress. That's really the main place right now for me.
Yeah, and I guess looking ahead to those changes, again, as a community-owned outlet, so many of our members are mostly just inquiring, all right, what's happening in the room where it's happening? And I know you're there and attached to it. It's not just Rokan who's hosting these roundtables. I know you also want to host a crypto roundtable with Harris's team. When you look into those things right now, what can you tell us about where those discussions are at and what, I guess, people should expect?
Yeah, that's been our focus. Once Harris became our nominee, is trying to get a reset with the industry. We've had some real good progress there with the folks who work for her, at the senior levels. So we asked for a bunch of meetings, and they have started to happen at the staff level. And the next step is putting forward a good policy position so folks know that where she stands. And I think we're going to see, a little some differences between the approach that Joe Biden has had on this issue, and Joe Biden too. We're talking about the administration. Gary Gensler has eaten up all the oxygen in the room, but there are a lot of other people who feel very differently about the future of Web3 in the administration. A lot of other regulators, Russ Benjamin, CFTC. And a lot of other folks that don't necessarily agree. So we're not all of the same mind on this. And, I think, as you look at the politics of it too, you've got well over 1 million single issue voters, 20% of registered voters own crypto. So the technology, it's not going anywhere. We need to embrace, the amazing prospects of digital innovation, keeping those jobs here in the U.S. Those are very progressive messages, because at the end of the day, when we get these things, done. We're going to bring down costs
Hmm.
for our constituents. You're going to have faster transaction speeds. We're going to be able to cut through international barriers in ways that will help folks all over the globe. So I think big picture, this is a very progressive issue, and as we continue to educate folks on it, I think you're going to see more and more Democrats coming around.
Yeah, it was strange to see also President Trump get such applause for saying he would fire Gary Gensler on day one, because I'm not sure. I'm almost certain Gary Gensler would probably just resign if he were to win anyways. But I mean, can we rule one thing out? Because I wonder, in your understanding of kind of where the Harris camp is at, can we rule out that she would ask Gary Gensler to step down?
I mean, I think that's unlikely. His term ends though pretty short into the next term. It ends, the beginning of 2026. So I don't want to speak for Vice President Harris here, but I can tell you that we asked for the next chair of the SEC to someone who embraces digital innovation. That was part of the letter that I led with, 14 House Democrats, another 14 candidates running for office, that we sent to the Harris campaign and the DNC. And by the way, if we're talking about applause at Bitcoin 2024, we got applause for everything else I said except when I said Donald Trump is full of it. So just want to throw that out there too, because the time we spent talking about that and how I disagree with much of what Gary Gensler has done in this space. I do agree, though, if we want to say something nice about Gary Gensler, we pushed real hard from my office to get the Bitcoin ETF and the Ether ETF. Those things have happened. That's a good thing. So, if we're going to say one or two good things, we have to we got to keep score here and applaud that those good decisions.
Yeah, I think the industry might say, I'm not sure how much Gary Gensler deserves some of the credit there, given that Grayscale had to sue to get the Bitcoin ETFs across the table. But certainly, it's not only one person agency, and we've heard from Hester Peirce and kind of how they rethought things to get Ethereum ETFs off the ground. So yes, there's still a lot to learn from everything that's happened. But I do want to focus on you, Congressman, because I feel like, we always talk about why people care about this issue in the U.S. There's some discrepancy in exactly how many Americans actually are "quote unquote" advocates when it comes to this industry. But you yourself, I mean, do you own Bitcoin? What got you interested in Web3? Like, why does Congressman Nickel care about this?
I represent the Research Triangle. A place where we've got a ton of great startups. But for me, this is about technology that will improve the lives of my constituents in a major way. But it's also one of the few places where we have a chance to get something done in Congress. I won a Republican district, one of just 6 Democrats to flip a Republican seat. So my constituents want to have people in Washington who get things done. And Patrick McHenry, who's the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, made a good push for this case very early on. I wanted to join his committee in part to work on this issue. I'm on the Digital Assets Subcommittee as well. But when you have Republicans willing to work with Democrats in a bipartisan way, you can get things done. That's why I went to Congress. So this is one of those issues where when you have a willing partner, willing to work, take the ideas and suggestions from Democrats to improve legislation, that's an important thing. So I think if you step back and look at this Congress, we are on track to be one of the least productive Congresses in our nation's history. We've done the debt ceiling. We've passed CRs. We passed a budget. We supported Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Those are must-do things. Fit 21 and the work we're doing around crypto has a chance to be one of the longest-lasting and most important things we actually can get done in this Congress. So it was about that, but really it's just about embracing this technology, bringing down those costs for my constituents, and making sure that we continue to strengthen the digital dollar. That's something that as this issue plays out more and more, I think is going to be so important. And again, I have never gotten a very convincing argument for why we should oppose blockchain technology like crypto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if it is truly going to be a tool to maybe take on the tech monopolies of of this last iteration of the internet and kind of where this industry could go. By the way, shout out to Raleigh, Durham. Love it down there. One of my best friends lives down there too. It's a great part of the country to be from and represent. But to wrap up here, Congressman, I think that, one of the things around the optimism, I want to end this interview on an optimistic note in terms of what people should look forward to. There's about 100 days before we get to Election Day. When you look at maybe what is set to happen within the ranks that you're working on here, what should people watch for when it comes to delivering on at least the shift and maybe the roundtable you're working on? What are you looking forward to in delivering? Give us a hint. Maybe tease a headline that we can use here.
No, I think it's a simple thing. The Biden administration didn't do meetings with leaders in the space. We asked for those meetings. They're already happening right now at the staff level. So that's news in itself, and some other folks have covered that. But we're looking for very specific stuff. We're looking for policy statements. We're looking for a commitment to keep innovation in the U.S. from the Harris campaign, and I think we're going to see that at some point in the coming days. But I don't want to jump ahead of Vice President Harris, but I think we're going to see some good policy positions that come out and let folks know that she's looking for a reset on the issue, and that would be a big deal because it would be a change from the approach that President Biden has taken, and one that I think will be the right decision for public policy purposes, but also on the campaign side, especially important as well, because we've got a ton of folks, who are part of this digital economy, who own crypto. Again, 20% of registered voters. This is not the same place we were 4 years ago, 8 years ago as a country. And if you want to, represent folks in the White House or in Congress, you got to keep up with what's going on and where people are. And this is an issue where we got to catch up, and I'm pushing real hard for that. And so far, it's been very, very, we've had really productive discussions. I've got another call with a senior person just right after this. So stay tuned. If I've got any good news, I'll let you know before it happens too.
Yeah, you'll have to come back on and keep us abreast of kind of all the progress there. But it's exciting to see, nonetheless, effort on both sides of the aisle to move this industry and technology forward, to be honest with you. Congressman Wiley Nickel from the great state of North Carolina, thank you so much for coming on to chat with us, and good luck with everything you're working on.
Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.